So let's just talk about games in general. People play games and they want to win or have fun, many other reasons. But let's talk about competition, okay? People go to competition to win, all right? So what determines how a game is played is the rules. Like how are points scored, and these are all factors that determine how a game is played and who's going to win at those games. That's for all games. That's for all sports. If you disagree, I mean, fine. All right. Okay. Now let's talk about the history of sport Taekwondo sparring. Okay. In the 70s and 80s, right before this was even an Olympic sport, it was scored similarly to boxing, like a 10-9 must. So someone wins a round. Now you get points for winning a round. Not for kicks, the round. And how do they score that? Dominance. If you won that round, everyone in the crowd had to have been like, that guy won the round. If it was close, you would win the round by 1 point. If you could knock that guy down onto his butt, you really hit him hard. It was just completely destroyed this guy. You win by 2 points. That was the era of power. People would just rank on each other. And they also wouldn't really wear headgear or arm guards or shin guards or maybe even a hogu. I've heard stories. I haven't interacted that. I'm obviously not from the 70s or from the 60s or 50s for me to have been in that era, but that was the game. Old school power Taekwondo. Now, let's talk about the 90s. In the 90s, what they introduced was electronic trigger scoring. You'd have 3 corner judges, and they would basically sit there and watch and look at individual kicks, whether to the body or to the head, and score based off of if that kick had hit the body and it had hit it hard enough, and basically convince the judges that was definitely a point. Okay, it is imperfect. I have judged before as a referee, as a corner judge. Some shots that maybe one guy saw, like, yes, that was definitely a point. The other 2 guys didn't have a good angle. They couldn't see. So there's room for interpretation there. But generally, what it boiled down to was, did you kick them hard enough that the hogu made a sound? Did you key up and did you sell that? Key up means yell. Did you sell that point? Like, oh, woo! I hit that point. So that continues from the 90s all the way into the 2008. And the Taekwondo was originally introduced to the Olympics in 1988, it became an Olympic sport in the 2000s in the Sydney. It was the first medaling sport, and they sparred with this electronic trigger method. In 2009, they introduced PSS, protection scoring systems. Now, protection scoring systems is basically like that. That's a hogu. Hogu is a chest guard, where it has some method of keeping score of things, right? So 2009 Dado used like magnets, and you would have to wear these socks that had magnets in it. And what this did is, like, when you hit the Dado, in theory, at a certain threshold, a certain level of power, you would score a point. Okay. Now, a shot to the body was worth 1 point. In old school body shot, in trigger school, old school trigger scoring, body shots were worth 1 point, headshots were worth 2 points, or just 1 point. So people were mostly kicking to the body because it's harder to hit the head. Now, in this new electronic scoring, they changed not only how people scored the points, so no longer were judges using triggers to score body shots. They would just use triggers to score headshots because there was no electronic helmet at that time. And you just had to touch the head. And now headshots are worth 3 points. So now your game has changed where it's, by the way, it's also hard. By Gen 1 Dado was hard to score to the body. You had to hit someone hard, and you had to hit him with the right part of your sock with the magnets, and you had to relax your ankle so that it would slap the hogu. And this is very technical to do. But you just had to touch the head to get 3 points. It's worth 3 times as much, and it definitely wasn't 3 times harder to kick someone in the head. Okay, so there was an incentive, a reason to basically try to hit someone in the face. So the game of Taekwondo had shifted from being power or being like combinations and kicking them to the body a bunch of times to trying to hit somebody in the face. Because hitting them in the body was worth less and it was hard to score electronically. Now that basically changed the game everyone was just doing these cut kicks or flicking to the head. It became, people were just keeping their leg up at all times and just flicking to the face to just score that headshot. Also keeping your leg up at all times really helped you block other people's kicks. Then they introduced rules that you couldn't have your leg up for longer than 3 seconds, and then that you couldn't have your leg up without kicking. So they introduced new rules and changed the game. Then 2016 rolls around, they introduced Gen 2 dado scoring. By the way, there's more than just dado. There's KPNP, which I hear can be better, and it has its strengths and weaknesses. But basically, Gen 2 comes along, and why I'm talking about dado is because dado is what the Olympics use. And if you are a serious competitor, your ambition is, I want to go to the Olympics. So people train with dado. They want to get good at dado. Gen 2 rolls around. Now it becomes easy to score. Okay, not only because there's more magnets on the Gen 2 dado sock, but there's also this kind of, now the body shots are starting to work. They also changed the point system. So now punches are worth 1 point to the body. You can't punch to the head. Body shots are worth 2 points. Head shots are worth 3 points. Spinning body shots are worth 4 points. And spinning head shots are worth 5 points, okay? Now, is it necessarily worth spinning to hit someone in the head for those extra points? Let me tell you this. Sometimes it's usually a lot slower, and you have to really understand, like you have to download your opponent if you want to do a spinning headshot or maybe you might get a jump spin, heel kick, jump back kick to the body or to the face. Those can happen, less so. So now body shots are worth 2 points, they're easier to score, and they actually score. It's easier to hit the body than it is to hit the head. Obviously, if you're only hitting body shots, your opponent is going to be like, this guy's only kicking my body, I'm going to block my body. So you have to mix up with headshots here and there. So the game had changed. Now, bear in mind, you don't need a judge to say, oh, that was a body shot. It's just, you just need to hit it. So it doesn't matter what kick you use. It doesn't have to be a traditional roundhouse kick. It could be a twist kick. It could be a monkey kick. What does this mean? So a twist kick is looks like this, where you flick your leg, your front leg on the inside. Or a monkey kick where you're inside and you kind of jump and you slap your foot onto the hogu. Right? It changed kind of like the beauty or like the original moves that people used for other moves. And when you see this, you're like, oh, what is this? Like when I saw it for the first time, I was like, what is this? It's definitely not powerful, but it still scores. And again, like I said before, people want to win matches, okay? People compete because they want to win for glory, whatever it be, to represent their country, lots of different things. People want to win. So, yes, history of Taekwondo is the history of how this sport was scored, whether it be by round or by kicks, how much those scores are worth, whether it be the body to the head, whether it's scored by a judge or whether it's scored by electronic scoring systems, changed what types of kicks were valuable, and how much the differential was between a body shot and a headshot. Are headshots worth more? Body shots worth more? How easy was it to score a body shot or a headshot? So all these calculations had to be made, and certain fighters would change, and obviously the sport had evolved. So that's kind of a modern history of Taekwondo. Taekwondo has roots back history. I mean, that doesn't affect how I train. That doesn't really affect me personally. So this was a modern history of Taekwondo sparring and how it had evolved and how it had grown and changed. Is it better than old school? If you look online, and if you look at all the comments, you'll definitely see everyone's like, oh, new school Taekwondo. It's like fencing and it's weak. I miss the old school days. Yeah, I personally sparred both old school. I was kind of in that in-between period of old school and new school sparring. And yeah, they're very different. If the rules are old school, man, you better believe people are going to kick each other hard. And if there's judges that are going to be like, bah, I'm going to rip them. But when it's electronic new school sparring, you can't do that. It's like, why do a back leg roundhouse kick to the body when you could just flick them to the body with your front leg? It's a lot faster. There's a lot less risk to doing that, right? And at the end of the day, you're not like, what are you going to do? Go to a new school style electronic scoring fight? where you traveled, you flew, you trained for many years, and you go to this tournament, and you weigh in, out of principle, you spar old school style against these new school fighters when everyone's wearing these electronic scoring systems and doing these new points. Like, you have to think about it from the fighter's perspective. They're not going to fight. They're there to win. They're not there to prove that old school Taekwondo is better than new school. They're just they're different rules. It's a different game, right? So if you're looking for kicking as hard as you possibly can, you should definitely learn to train under old school rules. And if you're looking to get that finesse and that beauty when tournaments and stay modern, you have to fight the new school style. Well, here at Taekwondo, we train both. You have to have both, right? I think that it's not complete without both. And Taekwondo as a sport on its own is incomplete as a complete self-defense system. It operates at a longer distance. You can't punch someone in the face. You don't have hands, really. You can just do a body punch. Like there's no takedowns. There's zero training in Taekwondo for grappling on the ground, right? If you want that, do jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, judo, all these things, stand-up, takedowns, grappling, wrestling. You want to learn how to use your hands, boxing. You want to learn hands and legs, Muay Thai, with elbows, knees, Muay Thai. It depends on what you want to get out of what you're doing. I think the values of doing Taekwondo is that you can learn, sparring Taekwondo is you can learn how to fight at long distance in a vacuum, how to spar with your legs, kicking distance, kicking to the head, developing flexibility, explosiveness, kicking with your strongest parts of your body, which by the way, your legs, like in your hips, the rotation. I can't think of any other harder way to hit someone than your legs. But, to me, it's just a game. It's fun, right? And it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking to get an ultimate form of self-defense because you expect that to happen, yeah, maybe jiu-jitsu. If you're looking for a very fast-paced, technical, you're planning on getting in bar brawls for some reason, which I never recommend, then maybe boxing. But at the end of the day, in this day and age, I don't really think anyone's getting in any fights. There's weapons out there. If someone's robbing me at gunpoint, am I going to be throwing roundhouse kicks? Probably not. Is there anything in my pocket that's worth more than my life or taking a gamble on my life? No, really, nothing. I'll just get another wallet or credit card or whatever, Metro card, whatever it be. So, at the end of the day, the game has changed and deal with it.